weird. You are weird. Otherwise, this wouldn't happen to you. So I grew up feeling weird. People who are really good at something, they're also very bad at something else. That's science.
Now she don't have autism anymore. So can it be fixed?
No, it cannot be fixed.
Right.
There's no other version of you. This is the version. It's the best, and we need to make it the best one.
I want to start with a child who could not stand still, who will start 10 things but won't finish one, who keeps staring out of the window. Not that he's not interested, but he could not focus. And the adults around him would be confused, frustrated, and would say, "What's wrong with you? Can't you try harder? Can't you pay more attention? Why you're not like anybody else?" And the child underneath would hear something that adults won't speak. Something is wrong with you. That child could be you, me, somebody we love, somebody we manage. And today's conversation is after that. I have joined by Saskia from All Minds Thrive. Welcome, Saskia, to the podcast.
Thank you.
Can you tell our listeners who Saskia is?
I actually always start with, I'm the creative kind of girl. I like to create stuff. So I wrote books. I'm always starting new initiatives, having all kind of ideas. I studied organization studies way back, and I worked in big companies at HR or learning and development, and always interested in how can we get the best out of people, and you know, let all their minds thrive, which is the title of my book. So I was always curious about what do people need to thrive, because we all deserve a place where we can be our best selves. But I have these tons of ideas. I wake up and I could write a blog or have a new idea or whatever kind of idea for a training. So this is never quiet. Yeah.
That's interesting. So, Saskia, when you go to training or when individuals come to you, and what generally they believe on themselves before coming to you or before understanding what their mind actually do and how does it work?
I usually meet people because they attended a keynote session or they read my book and they write emails to me. And what they usually say, well, sometimes they were in tears actually, because they say to me, for the first time in my life, I feel acknowledged.
Yeah.
I felt recognized. I felt seen and heard. And sometimes they are in their 70s and it's like, oh my, you know?
Oh my God.
So for some people, it's life-changing, which is hard to believe. But it's true. So when they come up to me, they feel heard and seen, but I see that they've been struggling. They have been feeling like a failure. And as you were stating about this young boy or a girl, growing up with a constant stream of negative feedback. And as you say, try harder, or I actually heard this one, I wish you were more like your sister. And that means I wish you were another child. You'll grow up feeling inadequate, feeling weird, maybe reluctant to speak up because you're the weird one, so you're probably not right. Very sensitive to exclusion. People feel lazy or something because they've been hearing this their entire life. So even when they have not been labeled, they labeled themselves. And I feel very sorry because I usually see the power in people, you know, what they're actually wired for. But if that's not something that have been acknowledged, you'll feel like a failure. I think that's something that people recognize. And the loneliness, being misunderstood your entire lives, maybe make some decisions or lost jobs or had trouble in relationships, whatever happened in your life, not knowing why things happened in the way they happened. Yeah.
I guess many listeners would also relate now to themselves that what you explained just now.
Loneliness is something that people really will recognize because you have been feeling different and feeling misunderstood from a very young age. So yeah, it's in your veins. And this loneliness is something that really resonates with a lot of neurodivergent people with a differently wired brain.
Saskia, like what you just explained, what stuck with me was you mentioned that sometimes people also label themselves.
Yes.
Can you explain more about that? How do they explain themselves and what's going in their mind then?
Yeah, because if you have been treated in the same way day in, day out, just sit still, just behave, try harder, then it must be you who's being the problem. So they label themselves with labels like lazy, dumb, not good enough, weird. These are the labels that children put on themselves. So that's something that people ask me about labels. Are you against labels? No, I'm not, because if we don't label these children, they will label themselves, but labels like that. And so that's different in these times, that people from my age, I mean, I'm 50, they have never been diagnosed because back then it was not known, and especially girls or women, if they are watching or listening, they were rarely acknowledged as having ADHD or being autistic or being gifted or whatever. So they grew up with feeling weird or different, not knowing where it came from. And if you know from a younger age as a child, this is called ADHD or whatever, yeah, it gives it gives a reason why things are harder for you anyway. So this is what I always teach people, because they say, we don't want labels. Yes, but people or children will label themselves. They will feel they feel the failure. They don't see that the system doesn't suit them. They feel that they are the weird ones, that they should be different. So this is another use of the word label.
Label, yeah.
And these are and they're always negative labels, not like intelligent or different in a good way. I grew up feeling weird, maybe, and that's why loneliness probably resonates with a lot of people. I've been bullied as a child, and I think I was like 8 or 9 years old, and it was nothing physical, that would have explained it. So I thought, I'm weird. I probably communicated in a different way, or acted in a different way. I didn't know, I was not aware of that. But when you're being bullied and you don't know why, you will put the label on yourself, weird. You are weird. Otherwise, this wouldn't happen to you. So I grew up feeling weird. And now I can say, yes, I'm weird, but in a good way. Now I make my money out of it being weird or different or whatever. But when you grow up like that, when I speak for myself, is you're reluctant to speak up when you sense something that's not right, because you always think, I must be seeing it in the wrong way. It's because, I don't fit in or whatever. So a lot of people seeing the right stuff, being the canary in the coal mine, actually won't speak up because of that. Not knowing that they're actually seeing things in a good way or seeing the right connections. But they will keep quiet. Yeah. So that's how I look at labels, because it's a very important discussion. They come with stigma, but if we don't label the children understanding themselves, having what kind of brain type they have, they will label themselves with all kind of negative labels that they will grow up with.
So labels,
do you recognize this?
Yeah, I recognize this, and I have got another perspective out of it, that labels even can be used in a positive way, not always in a negative way.
Yeah.
So if you know yourself and your brain since start, then that's a good labeling.
Yeah. It's reframing, like weird, so there's something wrong with me, or weird, so I have a different perspective.
Yes.
So for me, knowing more about my how my brain works, these things, yeah, they switch from a negative to a positive connotation. So yeah, and I think that's what happens when people attend my keynotes or read my book or whatever, that it gives different language. I created this poster, reframing neurodivergent traits. It's very popular because it's like, instead of saying chaotic, say creative. Instead of saying sit still, say, oh, you have a lot of energy. What do you need right now? Reframing, instead of it's a bad thing, it says something good about you. And how can we make sure that we focus on that side of your brain profile? It's really funny. It's so popular. It's a very popular tool. I'm not sure if you can add show notes or whatever, because a post like this, where reframing these traits, they should hang everywhere, that people should talk about that. Okay, yeah, I can, it's put traits in a different light. And I think that's exactly what we need. Neutral language, positive language, not only for our children, but also for our colleagues, our family, whatever, seeing things in a different way, knowing that neurodivergent people grew up with a constant stream of negative feedback. It's exactly what you started off with, very recognizable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, when they come to me, it's a feeling like coming home. And that's why I think my first recommendation, find people who are like you, like-minded people, because it feels like coming home. Oh, you're like me. Yeah, so I'm not the only one. It's not me. There are more people like me around the world. And because you're always the minority in a team or in a family, you're always the minority. But once you meet like-minded people, something's changing. It's like, oh, I recognize this. Do you have this? Do you have that? Oh, yeah, I see this really takes a lot of tension away. Yeah.
Saskia, I feel like I'm really very happy right now. I'm feeling like you are really doing a good job for a lot of people, and helping community, of course, through your talks, through your speeches, through your book, and also through your podcast. So you're really doing a good job with the like-minded people. How did this come into your mind uh, to help other people, other neurodivergent people? How to help the community? How did that idea pop up?
There was one casual comment of a colleague that really, yeah, it was like an epiphany. We have all kind of moments like that, because I always knew I was different, because of being bullied, feeling weird, and always being in a team and working in a team and always thinking, I see it in such a different way, but it must be me, probably not seeing it in the right way. Or when you're in a meeting and after 10 minutes you think it's already clear what needs to be done. Why are we going to talk 15 more minutes? I was like, and then at one point I felt lonely in teams. I didn't feel seen, and I'm not really the type that enjoys social stuff. So I was not always attending these kind of team outings. And at some point a colleague said, Saskia, you are so creative. I wish we had more people like you within the bank. I worked at a bank back then. And I was like, okay, so you appreciate my thinking and the way I am, but it's not being acknowledged. They always say you're too fast. It's like a black box. You're hard to follow, to keep up with. You're not social enough. Why do you put off your camera? Why don't you? It was always like never feeling good enough. And then I thought, okay, if it's being appreciated, then why don't we create a circumstances where I can use this creativity, because it's for the better. And when this guy said that to me, it was like, okay, now I need to speak up. What it's like to be me, having my creative brain in a risk-averse environment, what a bank obviously is. And then I started to give a webinar. I provided a webinar because back then it was the pandemic, so everything was online. And we did all kind of sessions, like 1,200 people showed up. There were so many people attending sessions about neurodivergency. And it was also like autism, giftedness, dyslexia, bipolarity, all kind of topics like this. Many people showed up, so it was a big topic. And then I started to write my book with all the conversations I had, people talking to me and feeling acknowledged, because these were the things I was telling. I always hear, you too fast, you talk too fast, you did. I always hear these negative things. And I had the same performance review for 25 years. Now I'm self-employed, so got rid of that, but always the same conversation, like, you're so creative and you lead big projects and you have such great ideas, blah, blah, blah. But if you want to get any further in the company, it's always, you're good at this, but you should improve this, you should do this and that. And well, this changed the narrative from always being focused on the lower half of your profile to using the upper half, and which is called spiky profiles. And once this concept got out, it got big. It's not my idea, spiky profiles. It's a woman named Nancy Doyle, she coined it, I guess. And that means people who are really good at something, they're also very bad at something else. That's science. Two sides of the same coin. So it always comes with in another part. And once you understand that, okay, people who are really creative, they're bad at something else, but just that needs to be handled by the team with team crafting, job crafting, or whatever. If you want the best people in hyper-focus, pattern recognition, creativity, being innovative, then there's something that they're bad at, and that's something that we can handle as a team. So yeah, the moment that happened, the guys spoke up, then this happened. And I started to talk about it, started to write about it. And oh, you should know, this is such a big topic. I get requests every day. I get emails every day. This is such a big topic and such a blind spot in many companies. They have no idea that many people are struggling. And we don't see this because they mask. I've been hearing this question, as I get it all the time from manager, but Saskia, everybody can adapt themselves, can they? This is a professional environment. And I said, yes, they can. They deserve an Oscar for it. One autistic guy said it to me. I thought it was brilliant, because they do. They adapt themselves, but not meeting their own needs. Masking, being normal, to try to fit in a normal that's been created around you, costs a lot of energy, and it hurts your identity. And that's the part that's interesting, the identity part. Because when you get a lot of negative comments, people think they give feedback on your behavior, but you will feel it as an attack on your being, on your identity. That's why it's so hurtful, because they say something about you that's you can't even change. So yeah, the concept of the spiky profiles is being embraced. It's actually my most photographed slide of my entire keynote session. They're like, oh yeah. And then they say, I recognize this, because for people with ADHD, yes, hyper-focused, they're very alert, they see a lot of connections, but yes, they might be a bit chaotic or time blindness or whatever, but it comes with the brain. Or dyslexic brain, they are so resourceful, very resourceful. They have a helicopter view, 3D thinkers. They see things from many more perspectives than other people. But yeah, because of that, they are bad at spelling, because the brain cells are organized in a different way. It's hard to optimize spelling rules and stuff like that. So for a lot of people, thinking about these kind of brain profiles is very helpful. That because you are bad at something, that's actually because you're wired for something big, and that's something that we should focus on, not the lower half of the profile. So, and maybe for autistic people, if they are listening, pattern recognition, they will finish stuff. They're very eager to finish stuff, and very persistent. They're systemizers. They are we owe a lot of inventions to autistic brains, but they might be sensitive or socially clumsiness or something like that. But it comes with the brain, and we need all these brains. This is what I want listeners to really understand. You are supposed to be like this. Your brain is not broken. It doesn't need fixing. It needs the right environment. You are supposed to be like this with a lot of challenges, that's true, but also with a lot of strength. And in the right context, those strengths can be used in the most exciting way. This is what I really want people to understand. Because if you have been hearing all these negative thoughts, then maybe you are not even aware of your strength because they were not acknowledged.
So what I take away from this is like our society and system is made for neurotypical people, and it's not that we need fixing of neurodivergent people. We need to understand that our wiring is different, and we need to help them to thrive in our system, in this environment. We need to thrive together.
You should understand that neurodiversity is collective intelligence. You see something that I don't see, and the other way around. We all have different perspectives, which is very needed. This is what I always say. It's neurodivergency remains standing in evolution. We still have autistic brains, dyslexic brains, ADHD brains. We have all kinds of brains. They're still here. So it probably has added value for us as a human species, and it has. So that gives such a different perspective. And you should understand that, you know, in the great scheme of life, way, way, way back when we were the hunters and gatherers, we get the farmers and the hunters and gatherers, we were living in such a different way, being outside, in small clans. You had, it was very obvious what your task was, such a different way. And now we're all sitting stuck in an office, not being able to move around, with no natural lights. We are in the wrong context, and yeah, a lot of people can deal with it, but other people can't, and that's not their fault. They were never wired for a system like that. So that's a different way to look at it. You're supposed to be like this, but we change the environment. You need to sit still, you need to behave, you need to work in all kind of detailed system. We are spending way more time in meetings, being, you know, in meetings, team outings. A lot of spending time, together means not enough time spending alone. And for the more introverted kind of people, or when you have a slower information processing type of brain, this is hurtful and needs a lot of masking. But you should be aware of that. You're supposed to be like this, but the environment changed, and now you think you don't fit in. But the system was never designed for brains like ours. You should know this, that specific brains end up with specific kind of jobs. So people with ADHD, maybe they work with cameras, they work at emergency rooms, very fit for talks like, jobs like that, tasks like that, or cabin crew in an airplane, probably people with ADHD, because they can handle stress, they can handle every day working with a different team, adventurous. So these kind of brains, we really need these kind of brains for specific tasks, for jobs like that. And that, you know, that's works well for all kind of brains. In the right context, they'll thrive. Especially in healthcare, in high tech, in creative kind of jobs, research. You will need brains that are really good at something, but they will always be bad at some other stuff, which we should take care of as a society, because we need those brains. We owe a lot of inventions to autistic brains, for example, and people have no idea about that.
I agree 100%. Do you think right now in the schools they identify and they understand that kids are differently wired, and do they have any structural framework for that?
Yes and no, because children get diagnosed, so they get help and understanding, but still, when you're dyslexic, you get the dyslexic label, you get opportunities like having more time to finish tests or some exams or something like that, but they are not being told what they're actually good at. They will spend a lot of time improving their reading skills or spelling skills, but not somebody who says, But if you are dyslexic, you are really good at, and what can we do to work on those skills? That's what school is all about. You can prepare for society, and you can earn money with what's naturally in your mind or body or whatever you're suited for. So instead of spending all this time improving spelling, you can use all this time to increase the creativity and the resourcefulness of this child. So yes, you will be recognized and acknowledged for having a differently wired brain, but they will focus on the lower half of the profile, improving stuff. And that still feels like a failure because you need to spend all those time on stuff that you're actually not wired for. So, and what we do see in education, you should know that teachers don't get any knowledge on neurodiversity in their education, none. So they don't know anything more than other people. So it's very good to understand for parents that they shouldn't depend on the knowledge of teachers. I'm not saying they're not willing, but they have no knowledge. And this is what it works for everybody once they hear the label autism. So, and autistic people are like this. So this child needs this because now we know it's autistic. This is what we should do. But it's not like that. These labels, these boxes are really fluid and every child is different. So because we know more about labels, the labels will lead the way. And that's not a good thing. It should always be about the child. Because this is what I heard that parents said with a girl with ADHD. They said, okay, she has ADHD, so we need to buy like a cushion that she can, sit like this. And then it didn't help. And they said, yeah, then we don't know what to do because when people have ADHD, this is what we arrange. And if it doesn't work, but it's not like that. Just ask the girl, what do you need? Do you have preferences? And I created this brain manual. Actually, it was for adults, and then my second book was about education, and I created a brain manual for children. And this works really well because children from a very young age, maybe 7, 8, they can really tell you how their brain is wired. So I let them fill in this brain manual, and they say brilliant stuff. There was one boy who came up to me and did like a guest lecture. I say this in school. It was like elementary school. I think it was 11. He came up to me and he said, I have so many ideas, and sometimes it's a cloud, and sometimes it's a star. And I was like, isn't that amazing? So I asked him, okay, tell me more. When it's a cloud, and can it be bigger, or what happens? And they were like, they got all kind of active, talking about their brains, and they were talking with each other. How does this work for you? Oh, really? I enjoy this. I enjoy that. So this is what we need to do. We need to teach these children how their brain works and what they are wired for, and being acknowledged. This was such a fascinating discussion with a guy like this, with a boy this age, how he was describing his brain. And they... some of them just making drawings. So I have these amazing drawings of children explaining how their brain works. And this is such a brilliant way to talk to your children, because then you understand why they behave in a certain way, or why they keep asking the same kind of questions, or why they feel drained after, maybe a day, when they go to the Efteling, when they go to like a theme park or whatever. So I saw these children having so much fun talking about this, and this is what we should do. We should normalize brain variety in a very young age, that they understand, okay, that works different for you, but it's normal, but it's different than what I need. And that's what we need to do. Because when I wrote my first book and people came up to me, a lot of those people were parents too. And then they said, I recognize this for myself, but I also recognize this for my children. Everybody in the education system should read your book. And then I thought, at some point, okay, I will write a book for education, more focused on children. This is why it happened, because it was not my habitat, education system. And it always provides language to talk about brain variety, because if I just focus on the work floor, Yeah, we still get troubled children because of the school system. It doesn't work for them. So we should start very young, on a very young age. So very in elementary school, you can talk to children about how their brain works and focus on the upper half. If parents are interested, there is this amazing guy, Thomas Armstrong, an American education specialist, and he created a 165 strength list for neurodiversity strength list to give to children or their caretakers or the teachers to fill it in with them, and all kind of things that that could be good at having a differently wired brain. And he said that when he got a file of a child that was having trouble in the school system, and he would read his file, all this negative stuff, this boy is to this and to that, and this is troubling, that is troubling. He just highlighted whatever positive things he could see. And then he made a resume of only the positive stuff. And that was being given to the next teacher. So the next teacher only had this positive stuff. And then these children will have another chance, because this we call the Pygmalion effect. If you perceive people, if you give only negative, you're describing people in a negative way to a person, they will have this negative view on people right away, because we think we're open-minded, but we're not. So whatever information you get, your brain will work with that. So this gives chances to children who have been perceived in only a negative way up till then. So I created the Dutch list, I translated it, but you can find the English version of Thomas Armstrong online. And because at one point, you're a mother, I know you're a mother, so this will resonate. There was a mother coming up to me after a session. She came up to me and she said, I recognize the strength. I love this topic. And she said, she was crying and she said, I just can't name one positive trait of my own child anymore, because she was in all this team with all kind of healthcare professionals only talking in a negative way about this child. And then I thought, oh, this was my cue to help parents understand that when they only hear negative stuff, this is the way they're going to look at their own child. So, and this list helps parents or teachers to perceive a child in a different way.
But you are mentioning about this list, but how early it can be known, and what's the right age to do this exercise with the kids?
Sometimes even from kindergarten age, because you will see how your child behaves, what it likes to do, if they ask a lot of questions, if they're curious, if they like to read a book, if they are shy or whatever. You get a lot of signals what this child really enjoys. But I think the list, maybe for 8 or 9 years old. But then again, every child is different. That's the whole point, that some children can read when they're 3 and some still have trouble when they're 7, which is all normal, but different, So it depends. But even if you don't fill it in, reading this list, looking at these positive traits that you have probably not even considered as a positive trait, maybe just as normal, that creates a change in your brain, how you look at your own child. You should understand that you're never really open-minded. Yeah. You have your own normal. You were raised in a certain way. Your mother behaved in a certain way. That's your normal. Yeah. We all know this, right? You will turn into your mother anyhow. Otherwise, you don't want to, but you do. So yeah. And this is also with the brain manual. Even if you don't fill it in, it will change something in your brain, and your perception of what's normal, what's a strength in people, and what they actually are up to.
Now, Saskia, I remember one of my friend, he told me that his daughter was detected with autism, and he fixed her when she was 4 years old. So he followed some exercises or few things.
Fixed her. It's actually what you're
that's
saying.
what he said. That's what he said.
He fixed her.
He fixed her. Then now she don't have autism anymore. Is it possible? Because I don't know how to, because this is not a disease. This is a human behavior, mind behavior. So can it be fixed?
No, it cannot be fixed.
Right.
like dyslexia can't be fixed. It can't be fixed, but you can learn to live with it. And there's neuroplasticity, so you can, you can develop stuff. That's like that. But it would be very hurtful to say you can't fix autism. You have all this kind of conversion therapy, stuff like that. It's hurtful because you don't. This is something that everybody looks in a different way. But a lot of autistic people, they say, I don't have autism, I am autistic. It's what I said about, is it behavior or is it your identity? And it's not up to me. You always need to ask, what does it mean for you? How do you talk about this? How do you consider yourself? But it's not something that you can fix. It's something you could actually deal with. But I'm very curious about what he fixed in her, because autism, it's not like this. It has all kind of different traits. It looks different for every autistic person. So that's why it's really sensitive to talk in a way like that. Because I'm not sure what he fixed, her shyness or her sensitivity, or I don't know what he thinks that he has been fixing. And maybe she got misdiagnosed, because some gifted girls, for girls, it's harder to get the right diagnosis, even, and especially for girls with color. So this is what we know. So it gets misdiagnosed a lot, because maybe she was just high sensitive, or is high sensitive. Maybe she's intellectually gifted. We don't know. So it could be just not the right diagnosis. Because from my standpoint, it's not something you grow out of or that you can fix. It's the way you're wired. There's something else than this is behavior that I don't like.
So like when you mentioned that it could be misdiagnosed, why it is misdiagnosed more in girls and how it can be diagnosed better?
Because girls are just usually more social, or they mask better, or it looks different. When a boy is really obsessed with trains, sometimes, I know this from my own family, I know a girl, she was obsessed with horses, but somehow obsession with horses doesn't ring a bell, but obsession with dinosaurs or trains does. So they have certain behavior that we just don't recognize as obsession or focused or whatever. So we perceive it in a different way. They mask and they usually internalize. So when boys with ADHD, they get, they're very active and moving around a lot and behaving maybe in a bad way. But sometimes girls just internalize it, so they also have a lot of chaos, but it's in their brain, so we just don't see it. So girls, it looks different, they act different, and they are mostly more able to mask. So it's not just being seen, but sometimes it's just, I know this girl, she was ADHD and she was very active and talkative, but back then we didn't believe that girls could have ADHD because it looked different. But for her, it actually looked like ADHD, but she was a girl, so she couldn't have ADHD. She got very, very ill, but it turned out to be stress and not very physical cause. So it could be big like that. So there was recent research that said that before the age of 10, 4 times, I'm not saying I'm saying this correctly, but the diagnosis of boys and girls were 4 to 1. Say this, 4 boys and 1 girl.
Okay, ratio is 4
ratio.
to 1. Yeah.
That was the word I was looking for. This ratio. And then when all the children when they turn 20, it's 50-50. And it's not that they grew into autism, obviously. It's because we didn't recognize. So in girls, it's very highly underdiagnosed. And then during their studies, maybe when they get really into trouble, then they get diagnosed. But they have been struggling their entire lives up till 20 or whatever, or maybe even later, maybe in their 50s or 40s. Because we see it as in women, that menopause really triggers, and sometimes all the symptoms, they get bigger and they get diagnosed only back then. So that's very interesting research. It's there, but we don't see it. And a ratio from 4 to 1 that's really a difference. But when they grow older, this will middle out. And that means that a lot of girls are struggling and they don't get help and they don't get recognition.
Saskia, like if I think that okay, I have my mind differently wired, if I feel that I'm a my wiring is a bit different than the typical wiring, how should I take it, and how should one person diagnose it better or work on it when one person knows that okay, I'm differently wired, so how that person should what should be the next step for that person?
Yeah. I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a doctor, so it's not up to me. But when people really want to know if this is an official diagnosis, then you should go to the doctor and not use TikTok clips or whatever to self-diagnose. If they think they really need help, just, find a doctor, of course. But sometimes you don't need a formal diagnosis, but you just need acknowledgement. And I do see that people read my book or just read about neurodiversity, listen to podcasts. When people hear like-minded people, that's already a very big step forward. And this is what I'd like everybody to hear, that because this is what I see. The moment that you understand your brain and the wiring and you start accepting this or embracing it, the moment you start accepting how you are, you will be accepted way more easier by your surroundings. It's like that if you are okay with the profile you have, with the struggles, because they're there, but also with the strength, the moment you can say, this is the package deal, this is the cards that have been played for me, then something changes. The energy around you changes. This is what I actually see, if you can really embrace it. But that said, when people get diagnosed, maybe they go to a doctor and they get a formal diagnosis, they will have like the story of their life will be that, like a movie in their head, they will see their entire lives in a different way. And sometimes this creates a period of mourning. Like Esther Perel calls this ambiguous loss. What could have been there but wasn't there because you didn't know that you were different. And this is something that people need to go through. And not feeling a victim, like it could have been different, because that's true. So you need to live through this and then, okay, but it turned out to be like this. And now I have a new starting point, knowing this about myself, being able to give neutral language to what I need, and looking for the jobs and the environments or the relationships where I'm being celebrated for who I am.
But there would have been people who, after getting diagnosed, would think that, okay, I'm incapable, I'm differently wired. Then how
You're not
genuine-
of course not. You're incapable of some stuff. Maybe you're not good at stuff, but you, because of these profiles, thinking in these kind of profiles, then you know there's something else that I'm actually good at. And that's what you need to find out. And sometimes people don't even are able to talk about their strength, and then you need your environment. You know this, that sometimes your girlfriend might say, but you're so good at this. And you say, well, that's nothing. That's easy, so that's nothing. That's not nothing. It's a big thing. Alleen for you, it's so obvious, but it's still a strength. Sometimes you need people in your surroundings to say, but you're very good at this. You're always the one that arranges this. You're always the one who have a different idea or whatever, because the talents are there. But if you have been approached in a negative way, you were never celebrated for what you actually bring to the table. So it's not like, okay, I have ADHD, so I'm incapable of. No. This is never an excuse, but the challenges are real.
Yeah.
So for me, it's always a starting point. Okay, this is what you know. This is what time blindness is a thing. That's not because you're unwilling or you're lazy. No, that's a thing. So, but once you know this, how can we make it work?
Once you knew that you were different and you had you have your brain differently wired, what helped you most to thrive in your work and in your personal life? What really helped you?
To talk about my needs, but in a neutral way. You don't need to say, I need these because I'm autistic. I learned to say, I'm the kind of person who's very, in my job interviews, I would say, I'm very creative, which means that I need this or that, which means that I might not always do what I'm told because sometimes I have a different view. Is that okay here? You know, are you open for that? And have a discussion about that. And yes, I have a lot of ideas, but maybe I need something that needs somebody to. I'm very bad at creating structure, and now I know this. I didn't know actually. A lot of people said you need to be more structured, and I said, of course, and I did something that I thought was structured, but it wasn't. So the moment you know, I'm not very good at structure, so now I can say this. I have a lot of ideas, and this is what I can do. But if you need structure, I need somebody else to create this structure with me. Well, AI changed the world, of course, because it creates structure for me. But not feeling like a victim, but being the profile you are, talk about that. This is what I can do. But what I need to be good at this or show my strength, use my strength, then what I need is this and that in neutral language. Normalize that you have strength, but you also have weaknesses and that you need a kind of environment. You could say, I love coming to the office, but 5 times a week won't work for me because I need silence to focus, or I'd like to do my meetings from home because otherwise I get very distracted when I'm in the office. Some people with ADHD say this, that they would like to do the team meetings at home and just work on projects in the office. I don't know. It's different for everybody. But because if you have been perceived in a very difficult, in a negative way, you feel that you have to legitimize, that you need to be always need to feel that you have to explain why you need something. But other people, they're not like that. They just say, yeah, I'm the kind of type that, because, you know, they were not brought up with the idea that you always have to be sorry that you are different or, apologize for yourself. A lot of people apologize for themselves. When people talk to me, they say, yeah, I'm sorry that I said, you don't need to be sorry, because they say I talk too fast, not for me, or, you know, I skip subjects, I don't care. So I say, oh, you're so used to apologize yourself. What if you stop apologizing? Because you don't need to apologizing for the fire in you, for who you are. You're supposed to be like this, and if the environment doesn't fit, that's not because of you. So a lot of people apologize, and that's something I hope that people don't need to apologize for themselves and just know, if you want to get the best out of me, then this is the way it works best for me. I don't know, that's not always easy, not if it's your first job, because for me, when you had some jobs and people know what you're capable of, that's way more easy. But then again, you know, take some step backward and think about that, how you communicate, because how you communicate about your needs is how people will perceive you. You don't need to victimize yourself. You don't need to apologize for yourself, but you need to stand up for yourself. You need to help other people help you. If you say, you should know I have ADHD, so it would be very important for me to take that into account. They have no idea what you're saying, what that means. So you don't need to tell you about, if you are labeled, it's not about what you have, it's about what you need. And that's something that people should know, how you can be your best self. People want to be helpful, but they have no clue about what labels actually entangle. So, yeah.
And at workplace, how managers and HR teams can help people in adjusting and in enabling them more.
They should understand that we talked about collective intelligence, that we need all voices at the table, because you see something I don't see, or you see something that I might overlook. So if you understand this as a manager, that you have all kind of different perspectives in your team, which you need, then you need to think about, how do I get every voice? how can I hear every voice? Like deep democracy, that you understand that the minority point of view sees something that you actually need. And it's not like the majority counts. No, every voice counts. So deep democracy, make sure that you hear every voice, make sure that people feel safe to speak up. Psychological safety is a big thing. It's the most important thing for every kind of team, and especially for neurodiverse teams. And enough time for people to spend alone. Very, very important. So that they have a quiet room, or they can work from home, or not back-to-back meetings. It's killing for specific kind of brains with specific kind of perspectives. This is the way you should look at it. We need all voice at the table. How can I make sure that I hear every one of them? Because then I will have better decisions, will be more innovative, because some people say weird stuff, but they see it for a reason. They see something we might overlook. Some people just overseeing more complexity. The nonlinear thinkers, exactly what we need. But they might need something else to speak up, or they will think about it and will come up with their ideas after the meeting. And if we say we have this hour, we need to make a decision after this hour, then that's not the most intelligent decision, because some of those people will go home, walk their dog, and then have their brilliant ideas. So this is the way you should look at it. We need all brains. How can we make sure that I hear every perspective and people feel seen and heard? Because otherwise they won't speak up. They will hide, they will mask, and they will do whatever it takes to make it work, but that will cost a lot of energy. And that's the energy that you should put in that peaks upward, not downward.
So what I have understood, we need to stop being apologetic and start accepting our personality, our mind, and share our demands, share our needs openly within the team, within the society, like with our loved ones. So that will
Yeah.
help us to thrive more and more in wherever we go and wherever we live, either it's in personal life or in the workplace, it will help.
And I want to make something clear. I suffer from depression. So a lot of people ask, yeah, but I struggling with stuff. And if you're saying you're supposed to be like this, am I supposed to struggle? So I think that's very important, something to add. You should understand that, yes, this is a package with struggling. It's there, but also with strength. So look at it's a combination of things. And because otherwise it might listen to just be happy. It's not like that. It's toxic positivity. So yeah, you need to deal with stuff that comes with the brain, but you shouldn't apologize for that. And that's very important. And I hope that the people around you are curious enough to ask, how does this work for you? What do you need? Because I want you to be your best self, because you see something that we need. How can I make that happen? So we need more curiosity. We need people questioning their own normal, because how you're being raised, your education, your background, whatever, you look in your specific lens. So curiosity and challenging your own normal is very important for the people around you. Instead of, you're saying something weird, I have no idea what you're talking about, you could say, you're seeing it in such a different way. Interesting. Tell me more. What do you see? That's different. That's coming from microaggression to micro-inclusion, because language is everything, as said before. So reframing traits, looking in a different way, being curious, invite people to share their thoughts, because you don't know their train of thoughts. Sometimes they say something, but the sparkle was something different. And if you don't know this, you will see this like a weird comment or whatever. I like to share this one. I always talk about in my keynotes about synesthesia, which is a very specific brain variety. People with synesthesia, they can taste colors, they hear shapes, or they see colors with letters or numbers or whatever. It could be all kind of stuff. And I want people who are meetings to understand this. Pharrell Williams of the Head Happy, I always tell this. He also has synesthesia. He says, I see color when I hear sounds. So I don't. But maybe when you're making music with him, he might say, this beat needs more blue. it will be such a weird comment. But the fact that you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. So when you're in a meeting and somebody says something weird, it'd be like, okay, this person might see something that I don't see, but it doesn't mean it's not there. So this is why the curiosity is so important, because people with ADHD, autistic, dyslexia, doesn't matter, differently wired, differently outcome. They see different connections, and they are there, but not seen for everybody, not seen by everybody. Because this is what I like to do in my keynotes, in my books. Curiosity, really, how does this work? That you can taste colors. This is really fascinating, and this fascination, this is what we need for all kind of brains. Really, how does this work for you? When is your idea a star? When is your idea a cloud? Tell me more, because we are an exceptional species. Our brains are amazing. And I hope that we can embrace this variety, being more curious, and for the neurodivergent people, being less apologetic, because you don't need to apologize for the brilliance that you actually are.
So 2 things are important: curiosity and not being apologetic.
Exactly. I hope to create, my 2 cents, to create a world where people just say, I'm the type of person that really needs this. I'm good at that, but that means that. This kind of language. And that's why the Brain Manual, people can download it for free. It's a free tool to give language to their needs in a very neutral way. It's not about labels. I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist. I'm just looking at strength and what people need. And that you are a package deal. And the moment I embrace that I'm really creative, I don't even know where it comes from. I write, I produce, I have all kind of ideas, but it comes with depression. Sometimes it just overwhelms me, but the one comes with the other. And the moment I could embrace that and accept that, and now I'm self-employed, the world is out there. I can really celebrate my creativity, and I'm not being challenged for the things that I'm not good at, like structure or talk in a slower pace. So this is what I want everybody to experience, that they are celebrated for who they are instead of what they're not. Because that's what you've been hearing your entire lives. Me too. And now I'm really creative and a very nice pace. And I think I'm the same person, but I'm perceived in such a different way. And I hope that everybody can experience that, because the school system wasn't like that. A lot of people grow up in a school system that really doesn't suit their brains, and it's not their problem. Well, it became their problem, but it's not because there's something wrong with them. That's our system, which is over 100 years old, is not designed for the world we're actually living in right now. I think all the people who drop out of school, they're the game changers. When you don't fit in, you stand out. I think that's really the case these days. But I'm working on it, educating schools on neurodiversity, giving language to children and adults to understand how they're wired, why they're wired like that, and what they can do with it. And a lot of celebrities speak out about their brains these days, so it's more common to understand these kind of differences between us. But I feel so much more loved when I'm surrounded by like-minded people, because you don't have to apologize for yourself, especially when you're around like-minded people. But I hope we're being embraced wherever we are. Yeah, because you're being weird for a reason. Embrace your weirdness, because actually that's really how I grew up, feeling weird.
It's a very good point.
Yeah.
To take away as well. Embrace yourself.
Yeah.
However you are.
You're funny. You're creative. You see things that other people don't see. You're the canary in the coal mine. People are jealous of you because you see things coming that they don't see. Yeah. You can solve puzzles that other people can't. Or people watching series and they know what's going to happen. They see it coming, Yeah. I really enjoy spending time with within All Minds Thrive, my company. they're all differently wired people, because then that's why they're really passionate about the topic, or they have neurodivergent children. You really need to have a passion for this topic, and I'm surrounded by people passionate like that, and that's really fulfilling. So I think when you want to be passionate in life, you need to find something that you yourself have overcome and help other people with that. That's the most fulfilling thing that you will ever
Can do.
or feel. So I think that was one of your first questions. Why me working on this topic? I really, really hope I can other people help having a different life than mine. If I would have known in my 20s, or maybe when I was 12, what I know now, it would be different. Because I would embrace my creativity. I'm really creative, and I actually found out when I was 27 or 28 when people said, "You're a creator," and I was, really? So, and I was always drawing and writing, but somehow I just forgot this part of me. And that's why this checklist of all these strengths. I want children to grow up knowing what they're capable of, and let them shine in a very young age. Yeah, this is what we need to do.
This is like, I guess, also a big eye opener for me, because I know what neurodiversity is, but still I never thought in my workplace from this perspective that my colleagues could be different from me, and I should be curious and accepting to the people with whom I work, people who reports to me. It's really an eye opener for me as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so I will take away a lot from this, and I guess my audience will also take away from a lot.
And but what I think, because I said curiosity is very important, but also a positive image of humanity. That you bring something to the table, that we all have talents. And when something goes wrong, or people are struggling, or showing resistance, what's happening? Do I think of people lazy and will do not enough for their job, just doing the least they can do for their income? Or do I look at people as wanting to having a fulfilled life and come home with energy after a long day of work? So a positive image of humanity is essential for this topic, that I understand if I see something different in you, or you're struggling with something, that I take this seriously, and not thinking that's unwillingness, or you're just lazy, or because if neurodivergence is actually in place, people have been perceived in a very negative way, and maybe you as a colleague or a manager can be a game changer, life-changing for people responding in a positive way. I see you struggling. Tell me more. What do you need? Because I know you can excel in this or that, and if you need something different, let's talk about it. So this positive image of humanity, really important, because most people mean well, and want to have a fulfilled life. And once you really stuck in your head and you look at things okay, what does this person need? Because this person is talented like everybody, changes the way you think and the way you look at people.
Amazing.
When you look at children, stubbornness, being critical, not showing up, whatever it is, can you look at these incidents in a different way? Nobody wants to have a bad day in the office.
Agree. Also, I wanted to ask, what are some qualities in the neurodivergent people that get pathologized, that are taken as uh, problem in the society, actually, which are quite good strength in the right context?
Well, the specific talents of neurodivergent people is creativity, hyper-focus, pattern recognition, data-driven working and thinking, nonlinear thinking, seeing things from a different perspective. But it's a fun one. They have really a bullshit radar. you know. So when people say things, but they don't mean that, people will feel this. They are very sensitive for what's the truth, or if you have good intentions, they feel this. So this is why they're so important, because they will say, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
This is what people are saying, but that's not the truth. So they are, as said, a canary in the coal mine. They are you need them to prevent groupthink. They see different perspectives, but it could be perceived as, not being, obeying authority, because they may ask a lot of questions, because they need more context and they need to understand exactly how things work. So they might ask a lot of questions, and so that might be perceived in a different way. Um, and maybe needing more time to reflect, because they're very deep thinkers. Maybe needing more time to reflect could be perceived as lazy, or not fast enough, or very too slow, or whatever. And people with a creative brain might be perceived as chaotic, or that they are not, that people cannot depend on you, something like that. Hard, not predictable,
Not responsible.
not responsible,
No.
stuff like that. But they actually are, because they have this urge, very high intrinsic motivation to change things. I'm not sure how to say this in English, because in Dutch it's called verbeterdrang. I like this word. It's about the urge to improve stuff. They will see the flaws in a project. They will see the flaws in a process. And even if it's not their job, they want to act on it. No, they want to. They need to act on it, because other people might say, it's not even your business. Why don't you even care that it's not an optimized process? Because if it can be better, it must be done better. So this could be seen as obsession, but it's actually, because I'm like that, it's amazing inner urge to make things better, because if it can be better, it should be better.
Now I'm
But it can be
thinking
perceived in a different way.
yeah. Now I'm thinking about some people around me who really have those traits, like they have urge to improve thing and see the flaws in the system. Yeah.
But other people might say, why don't you even
Yeah.
care? It's not that important. It's not even your job. That doesn't matter, because they see it. And once you see something, you cannot unsee it. So really frustrates if you can't act on that.
Yeah.
So this is something that they're always one in the room, there's one in every crowd. People who are like that, they just the urge to change things, to improve things, and the urge to create things. And some people are really good at doing routine work, and other people don't. But these are the specific traits. But I especially like the sensitivity to change, the sensitivity to truth. They have a very high sense of righteousness, that things need to be fair. And with office politics, that might be a problem, that they want things to be fair, but sometimes they get into trouble in mediation processes or whatever. Yeah. I think people are perceived in, the time blindness, not being good at details, not overseeing complexity, being too fast, too slow, too sensitive, too emotional, or whatever. These things, antisocial, tens of negative labels that you could perceive in a different way. Yeah. Too precise, not precise enough, can be anything. But I keep smiling because I see all these kind of neurodivergent brains, I think, so creative, so thoughtful, so empathetic, funny, a lot of humor, good humor, a lot of neurodivergent people have this great sense of humor, and adventurous, fun. Yeah. I have a few autistic friends. They're so funny. They see, because they they see things from a
Yeah.
different angle, and they say stuff and make combination in their heads. It's amazing. Yeah. I think the most important thing is perspective. Differently wired means a different perspective. And once you really feel this with your positive image of humanity, this is only a different perspective. How can I use this perspective in a good way?
So I guess that's it, that people actually don't need any fixing. People need a right environment
There
to
was
thrive in.
actually one of the ministries I work for, one of the managers said to me, I don't even believe in malfunctionings. He said, if something's not right, it's the environment. That's amazing when people say that. When something goes wrong, it's not the person, it's the context. I believe, she said, I really believe that. So this is a powerful thought. If something's not going right, people maybe appear lazy or appear not committed. What's going on? Then we need a change of scenery. What if we would perceive people in in this way? Finding the right context, because that's what neurodiversity is about. Neurodiversity, and we haven't even explained the term, but natural variety in brain, mind, and wiring, and means leaving the social model of brain variety behind, which means normal and abnormal brains, healthy, unhealthy brains, but embracing a social model of brain variety, which means the right brain in the right context. And this woman really embraced that thought. They had maybe the most inclusive team I encountered in my work, because some work from home, and I wrote it down. It's one in my new books. It will be one of the cases. What do they do with arrangements of hybrid way of working, team outings? How do they arrange it that people feel included? Because it can work, but I think this thinking in context is really important. I always tell this story about context. I always show this picture of, I like to work with biodiversity because neurodiversity is biodiversity. And I always show this picture of a cactus, rhododendron, and water lilies, and they all thrive in their own environment, which is really obvious. But if you take the cactus out of the desert and will put them next to the rhododendron in the woods, it will die. It won't survive. And what we are doing is saying, you should have tried harder to the cactus. But it doesn't make any sense. But in people, we do. But you are just in the right environment, just in the wrong environment. You will do whatever it takes to make it work, but at some point it will drain the life out of you. So, and sometimes people email me and they say, oh, I was at your lecture and I feel like a cactus in the woods. What should I do? Run. Sometimes you need to do stuff because you need to make an investment to get to the right job that really fits you, and sometimes you are in the wrong environment, and maybe you had this kind of thoughts that you want to work at a law office or whatever, because that was what success looked like. But I think what success looks like is being your best self in the context that really embraces your brain. I think that's what success is all about.
Yeah.
Living your truth.
Living the truth.
Without masking. Feeling acknowledged and seen. And using your strength, your spikes upward.
Yeah. I agree. Masking really exhausts your brain out. It reduces the efficiency of your brain. And of course, it leads to different problems.
Yeah, and maybe with the cultural component is like, when there's different cultural backgrounds, we talk about code switching because you come from different backgrounds, sometimes the way you talk, maybe you come from a more, more togetherness kind of culture than the very individualistic culture as the Netherlands. These things have impact. So code switching, masking, when this adds up, it will drain you. Yeah, because you need to switch every day what you think is being needed, the language that you need to use, the kind of social interaction that's being asked from you, could be all kind of stuff. But for people with different cultural background or with a multicultural team, they experience stuff like this. It's when differences add up.
Yeah.
It gets way more exhausting if you are not in the right environment. Very important for other people to understand. If you work in a multicultural team, this is actually another aspect of difference.
What it looks like when people design their own life around how their brain really works. What does it look like rather than going against it? How can they design their life around their brain?
You will take care of the stuff that you're not good at. Then you know, this is what I can do, this is what I can do, and this will be draining if I need to spend a lot of time on something that you're actually not good at. So I think when you understand how your brain works, that you can make sure that the things that you're not good at, arrange it with a colleague who complements you, or with AI, which is really helpful creating structure, or job crafting, and talk about this with your manager or with your colleagues. And the things that really drain the life out of you, can you just don't do it, or do it in a different way? But I think that's really understanding what you're good at, but also what you're not good at, because that's something you just need to organize. Because I can say this from a personal angle, that once I understood, oh my, I'm not able to create structure. I had no idea. And that structure means something else for you than for me. The moment I got that, that was life-changing. Because then I can let go, because I'm working on my third book. And now I know I can create structure. So I'm just writing. I'm writing, and somebody else will create structure. If I need to do this, this will take months to get this in a logical way in my head. So now I know what I'm not good at. I could let go. And I knew that there will be an editor working with me and making it better. Collective intelligence. I can do what I can do, being creative, write new stuff, and all kind of connections. And other people will help me to make it better with the stuff that they are actually good at. They don't have the ideas, but they have the skills to make it better. For me, it was life-changing, knowing from, oh my, I'm just not good at that. And I could spend a lot of time improving that, or I can use the skills of somebody else who's actually very good at that. And together we'll be energized and better.
That's interesting, because even that applies for everyone, because everyone has their own strengths and their own weakness. So whatever you are good at, spend your time and energy there, and whatever you're not good at, take help, ask for help, take use of AI.
If we all have the same job profiles, this will lead to mediocrity, because we're not all the same, and we all excel at stuff, and this is what we should use. When you think about it, how we created job profiles and everybody needs to be the same, it's crazy, right? Once you really understand how brain variety works and how we organize work, how would you ever think that will work out in a good way?
Yeah.
Because they're being evaluated for the peaks downward, as said. Yeah. So this is very good to know what you're good at, but also what you're bad at. Organize it and just know what you need. And that's something that a lot of people don't know, that they actually don't know what they need to excel. So what kind of structure do you need? What kind of guidance do you need? What kind of interaction with other people do you need? And how can you arrange your work around that needs? Because that's even a better option. When you ask people, what do you need? That might be a very difficult question. The better question is, do you know what you need? Let's find out together. When do you thrive? Why? Who are you working with? What kind of project is it? How is it organized? Then I learn something about you, and especially from the people that you prefer working with, because they're probably complementary. But yeah, so you need to know both ways, what you're good at, but also what you're not good at. And knowing that it will take a lot of energy, so just arrange it. especially for entrepreneurs. 30% of entrepreneurs has ADHD, so they should know if they want to thrive, they really need to take care of the things they're not good at. Hire people, work together with people. So they probably excel when there's a partner to work with.
But what you said, you should know that what you need. But how can one know that what he or she needs?
You might need some retrospective, introspective, that you understand, okay, when I look back, which projects worked out well, with what kind of colleagues did I work well, looking for the peaks in your performance, because that's where the information lies, what works good for you. So you might need a partner or a friend who's saying, when you worked there and you had this kind of project, you were non-stop talking about that. Why? What was it? Because other people see the sparkle in your eyes, what I see happening right now. You always see this, right? When you talk to people, sometimes, and I'm very expressive, so for me, you see it when I get enthusiastic, something's happening. And that's what you need to find. There's a model from the positive psychology, PERMA model from Martin Seligman, positive psychology. You can look it up. And it has all kinds of aspects that you can ask people to find this sparkle. That's where the quality lies. And that's asking questions like, tell me more. What was Tim, what kind of colleague was it for you? Why did you enjoy working with him? Why was this such a good project? And looking for the peaks upward. What were you good at school? What did you like? What did you do? And because that's what positive psychology is all about. That's where your vocation lies, where you get enthusiastic. And that's what we need to do, find that sparkle. And when you have a background with a lot of negative feedback and maybe a problematic time at school, then we need to be extra careful to get this information out of you. Because it's there, but not that obvious, maybe because you have not been acknowledged for it maybe before. Or you don't perceive it as a quality. That's I said that, yes, sometimes people say, but that's not a quality. That's nothing. So that's also acknowledgement. No, that's not nothing. That's your quality. So use it. But this positive psychology is very helpful when there's neurodivergency in the room, because yes, the antidote to negative thoughts.
But when I'm thinking other side of that, don't you think that, like as you mentioned, that it's really important to know what you are good at and what you are not good at? So don't you think when the society or when the teachers or when the system point out, okay, you are not good at this, it will also help you to retrospect about yourself better?
Yeah, but you need help probably
Yeah.
with that. That's why I love this list of positive traits, but also teachers also have that, it takes a village to raise a child, but also to teach a child. So they see stuff at the children in the class, which parents don't see, that you need each other to really get a grasp on what kind of child this is. So of course, when you're not good at, but okay, you're not good at spelling. When you're dyslexic, you're not good at spelling. You have no idea why that is. And what's the positive side of that? Because there's no direct connection. As maybe when you're very good at details, you might not be very good at creating an overview and other way around. But sometimes when they're not good at, you have no idea that because you can't sit still, that you might be an entrepreneur or you might be an athlete, or you have no idea what the positive side of that is. That is something that we should teach children. They have no idea. Yeah, the child that doesn't sit still, yeah, this is what I always say, the children who don't sit still might save your life in the emergency room, because that's what they're wired for. But they will find out way later on in their lives. So it doesn't mean that when you find out you're not good at something that you immediately know what you're good at. If that were the case, this will be a different world, because these children with all this negative feedback have a different view on themselves. That's where it stops in education. We're all working on making things better. instead of focusing on strength.
Yeah. So with that, we really need to also use positive psychology.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
You don't come to school to hear what you're not good at on a daily basis. That's not school, that's not education.
Yeah.
It's about, let's find out who you are and create the best version of you.
Mm.
And fuel those children with
Different new thoughts,
positive,
positive imagination.
with
Mm.
with perspective, with role models, with anything that can fuel up their fire.
Yeah.
Even with your own child, which is, I know, a young girl, but then again, it's good to ask as a mother, do I acknowledge her in everything I see in her? Because sometimes you might be, as if she looks like you might perceive it as normal. But that's not very special. I recognize this. Yeah, but it might be special.
Yeah.
Of course, because if it looked like you, it's not, well, that's not really special. I recognize that. Yeah. Maybe that's a specialty, and it's good to know that right away that that's something, that's worth mentioning. You know, it broke my heart when all these parents came up to me talking about their children, how they were treated in schools or how they drop out of the school system or whatever. It breaks your heart because sometimes I see these children, I see the light in them, and I see what they're capable of once we just choose to look at them in a different way. It's really true. Sometimes it just takes one adult to change a child's perspective. And you could be the adult. You could be the colleague. You could be the manager. You could be the person that changes the view on how we look at people or how they look at themselves.
Yeah. That's I really love that, because we all have strength and we really need to thrive on our strength, and it's really cruel if we suppress strengths of any people. And
Cruel. That's the right word. It's cruel.
it's cruel. Yeah.
It's so sad if you grow up with only those comments that you're not good enough, inadequate, too fast, too slow, and that we would be better off with a different version of you. That's cruel.
Yeah.
There's no other version of you. This is the version. It's the best, and we need to make it the best one.
And help person improving on what they're not good at.
Yeah. And not denying the struggles that they are actually there. Because I believe in positive psychology, but not toxic positivity. That's something different. That's because sometimes people say this is my superpower, which you're entitled to say, but I never use the word superpower because like it comes with an obligation. So, okay, you have this kind of brain, show me your talents, you know? So I don't use the word superpower because it can be very distressing. Like, okay, I have this kind of brain. I probably should be good at this and I need to show it off. So be careful with that. That's, it's a balance.
Yeah. How is the inner experience of when someone starts understanding and stops apologizing for who he is or who she is? What shifts? How does that inner experience feel?
You will have more energy. And I think being more relaxed in the world and maybe making better choices for yourself. Because maybe you think at that point that you deserve something. Maybe you've been punishing yourself for not being good enough or whatever was going on in your head. So the moment you embrace it, I think it will create lightness. This is what people write me once they put off the mask. It's weight, So once it's off, life might be lighter once you maybe been through a process of mourning and looking through a different lens on your entire lives. But maybe it probably makes people more lighter, maybe being able to make better decisions because you know you're worth it. Maybe you were stuck in a job that didn't suit your needs or in a relationship. So I think it might be helpful to make the choices that really suit you.
Mm.
And as said, I honestly believe that the moment you embrace your own brain and accept it, that it's easier for other people to accept you. So I think there will be some shifting around you in energy.
Yeah.
Maybe you will attract different people.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is energy. So I think that's true too.
Yeah. Saskia, so if someone is listening to you right now, what do you want somebody to know who has just understood first time, oh, I am not broken. I don't have a problem. I'm just being misunderstood. What do you want them to know?
I want them to be compassionate. Yeah. Have compassion for yourself. You've come so far and you can be very proud of that because the system didn't suit you, which was not your fault, but you made it up so far. And that's, yeah. So I think be gentle for yourself. Don't be judgmental, but I think compassion is the right word.
Thank you, Saskia, for bringing so much gentleness and depth to this topic. Many people actually secretly, quietly carry this weight in their life. So thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. I do hope I can make a difference for people.
Yes, you are and you will. All the best for your future
Thank you.
and your initiative. If this conversation felt like something clicked, please share it with somebody who you don't understand or who you did not understand in the past. It could be your colleague, your child, or yourself only 10 years back. I am Nupur. This is Life Architects. Take care of the inner one.